Hi, I'm Nicole with Recherche Kennels, and I want to talk to you about crate training. The first thing is the purpose of crate training. Of course, it's potty training. It goes a long way in there. It's a very important tool for potty training. The second thing is going to be safety. It's not just safe for your puppy. It keeps them out of developing destructive behaviors or bad behaviors because it keeps them contained when you are not able to watch them, but it also keeps them safe from getting into something that could be harmful to them. The other safety side of that is for them. They feel safer in the kennel. If it's been introduced properly and trained and taught properly to them, they actually end up enjoying the kennel. All of our puppies that leave here, or at least the majority of them, really love the kennel. They love the kennel so much that when they go to their new home, one of the first things that they do is when they see that kennel, they see that open door, they'll actually offer up that behavior because to them the kennel is a safe, enjoyable place to be. So it's a very important tool to use. One of the key things you're going to do with safety though is make sure when your puppy is in there, especially unattended, that you don't leave any bedding in there, you don't leave any toys in there that they could, something that they could chew on and eat that they shouldn't be eating. Anything cloth, anything soft, you want to make sure that you do not leave anything in there like that that they can eat, that they shouldn't be eating, especially if you're not watching them. Now, as they get older, maybe 1.5, 2 years old, and they haven't developed that habit of chewing on things that they shouldn't, like their bed when they're loose in the living room with you and you're right there to watch them and they have their dog bed in the corner, that's fine. If they haven't shown any propensity to chew something like that, then go ahead at 1.5 or 2 years old and give them a bed in that kennel. But you want to introduce it slowly. So you want to put it in there when you're in the room with them to make sure that they're not going to start chewing on that new item. You want to make sure any toys, if they're by 2 years old, they're not de-stuffing those soft toys that you give them, then you know it's something safe for them to be with, at least for a short time. But we still recommend, just for safety's sake, don't leave anything in the kennel with them that they can eat that they should not be eating. You can leave an appropriate size Nylabone or a Kong toy, some of those more indestructible toys, things like that. You can use that, but the puppies, they don't need something in their crate to be happy. They don't need those things. And again, it's a safety concern. If you leave something inappropriate in there, it's more of a safety concern than just them being mentally happy. They're happy enough being in there already. So let's go into a few more tips to help you further your dog's crate training. So now we're going to talk about the sizing of the crate. So I've got 3 examples here, 3 crate sizes, 3 dog sizes. What I'm going to talk about is the appropriate size crate for your dog. Now, with this one, obviously she's big, her head is just touching the top of the kennel. This would be too big if she gets much bigger, or I mean too small, sorry. The crate itself is going to be too small. They need to be able to stand upright, they need to be able to fit comfortably. She's got a nice space, she can fit comfortably, she can sit. They're all kind of like that. This one right here, Sophie, her head's not touching the top of the kennel, so this crate is just barely perfect. It's maybe even a little too big, but this is the appropriate size for her. She's got space to be comfortable. And then of course the little one over here, we've got even the littler crate. And again, she has space, she can fit comfortably in it. Now what happens is sometimes you have a puppy who's in too big of a crate or too small of a crate. So I'm gonna take this one out so we can compare this. Good girl. Good girl. Okay, good girl. All right. So I have a second leash. So the first thing I'm gonna do is gonna show a crate that's too big. So this one here. Here you go, baby. Okay, good girl. Here, baby. Here, kennel. Good girl. So she's got plenty of space. She can stand up. She can fit in this crate. You can tell she fits. But what's gonna happen is she could make a potty accident in one side of the crate and she's got plenty of space to still be comfortable on the other. What this is used for with the potty training, the key to using this for a potty training tool is that if they make a mess in the crate, they're going to be in that mess. And what happens is when the crate's too big, they don't have a reason to hold that urge to have to go to the bathroom. If the crate's the proper size, like the big one over here, if the crate's the proper size, they're not going to want to make a mess because they know there's not enough space to get away from it. So they learn how to hold it. They develop those muscles, they develop the mental of that to hold their restroom. And so a crate like this being so big, yeah, she's got freedom of space, she can be super comfy, but she can also make a mess in that crate. And so this crate is going to be too big for her. That's why we use the smaller one. Okay, good girl. Let's go. Kennel. Yes, that's a good girl. Very good. Very good. Let me take the leash. Thank you. Good girl. And then I'm not going to make her go in, but I'm going to show you the size having her stand next to it. I know you're excited. I know, you're so excited. You're so excited, good girl. Okay. You can close it because she might actually try and go in. But simply the size of the kennel with her, let's go, right here. You can see she's much too big for this. She stands way too tall to be able to fit in this kennel. Her body's too long, she's gonna be too thick. Now she probably, if she really wanted to, if she wanted that treat or just wanted to please me that much, and she loves kennel, these guys have been taught for that, she's gonna go in the kennel, she might actually try and go in and she could maybe turn around, but there's no way she's gonna be comfortable in this size kennel. So this would be way too small for her. So that's what you wanna look for. You wanna look for a kennel that's going to be the appropriate size for your puppy. A lot of times people, instead of having to buy each individual size as your puppy grows, most kennels do come with that divider that comes in the middle, and you want to space it as if let's say you have a puppy that size, and you have this size kennel because you know as an adult she should fit in this kennel. Use that divider and ideally make this crate as small as possible that she has room to lie down, turn around, her head can touch, or her head's not going to be bumping on the top of that kennel. But if she makes a mess, she's going to have to be in it. She can't escape from it. She doesn't have all this room. You want to use it. And as she grows, you can expand that and make that a little bit bigger and give her a little bit more room as needed. And then of course, as they get older and then when they're full grown, you just stick with that one size that fits them. If your dog is struggling with any aspect of crate training, this is the part you really want to focus on. The first rule of crate training is never use the crate as a punishment. It creates a negative association with the crate for your puppy. So never use it as a punishment. Never use it for timeout. Never scold your dog and toss them back into the kennel. Make sure if you're frustrated with something, it's something that your puppy did or whatever it is, if you're frustrated, don't be putting your dog in the kennel when you're frustrated because they're gonna think they did something wrong. And again, they're associating negativity with the crate and it just makes it that much harder for them to want to be in there. It makes it harder for them to go in there for you. And then of course, the purpose of the crate again is going to be a safety thing. That's one of the main reasons to use a crate in the long term. The second rule of crate training is practice. Make sure you practice using the crate. Practice having the dog go in when you ask them to, or I should say when you tell them to. Practice them being in the crate, whether they're alone or you're in the room with them. The door's open, but you told them kennel, so they have to stay in there. Even though that door's open, you gave them the command that says go in the kennel and stay until I say so. Close the door and walk out of sight. Make sure it's locked if you're not right there to correct them right away. You need to practice all of these things. All of the training, the physical training part of the crate, you need to practice this. You need to practice it in short spurts. So make them stay in the kennel for like 30 seconds when you're out of sight. Make them stay in the crate for an hour when you're out of sight. If the only time you use this crate is when you put them in there and you lock the door and you walk away, maybe you're just in the other room working from home, or maybe you're at work, or maybe it's at night, or you're just running errands. But if the only time you use the crate, you tell them kennel, you lock them in, you walk away, even if you tell them good boy or girl, whatever, you walk away and they are now left alone for an extended period of time. If that is the only time you use this kennel, it's the same thing with using it as a punishment. They associate with a negative thing. It means they no longer have your attention, maybe your presence even is missing. And that's of course what they always want. They just want to be with you. So you need to practice this, you need to make it fun, and you need to let them understand that just because you're asking them to go in there does not mean that they're going to be in there for a long time. And this is something that you don't do just for a week or two. This is something you want to practice continually. You don't have to do it every day for like 30 minutes or an hour or whatever it is, but every other day or maybe right before bedtime, if they start, the moment they start saying, you know what, I don't want to go in kennel for you, they've been really good up until this point, maybe it's been a month, maybe it's been 6 months, and suddenly they're like, you know what, I don't want to go in the kennel because I know it's bedtime and I'm not ready for bedtime yet. So the moment you get something like that, you want to practice kennel, make it fun, bring back those treats so it makes it super exciting for them, something different even. And then give them a break, give them 5 minutes where, okay, we're gonna go back in the living room and then let's do it again. And if they stop again and they hesitate again, practice, 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 do really quick, easy session, and then give them 5 more minutes of freedom and then ask them again. If they go right in, good, practice, but don't immediately lock them in because then they learn if I hesitate, it's a game. If I go right in, we're done, I'm locked in here for a long time. You've got to mix it up for them. Don't let them anticipate when they're gonna be locked in for a long time. It's good to have a schedule. It's good to let them know, maybe first thing in the morning, you let them out, you give them an hour, maybe you give them 3 hours, and then they get locked in for a short time during the day. That's okay if they know that schedule, but you need to make sure you practice it and you make it fun. And if they start stopping and being like, I don't wanna do this, I don't wanna go in, I know it's schedule time and we're gonna do this, try and have a game right beforehand. put them in, and then again, reassure them this is the place to be. Now I'm gonna go ahead and show you some of the training things. The first thing, since he's already in here, is the door. When your puppy's in the kennel, if he's crying, if he's been in there for a while, or she, if they've been in there for a while and then they start getting anxious, they start walking around, they start crying, they start kind of pawing at the door or something, they might need to go potty. In that moment, you don't worry about door manners. You take the leash, if you can put it on them, you kind of just open the door just enough, you stick it on them, and you can tell them let's go. Or you can just open the crate door and tell them okay right before you open the door. And then that way they know they've been given the cue, they've been given the permission to just go out that door as soon as they physically can. They don't have to worry about waiting, and then they go, and then you go bring them to potty. Give them that potty break. If they don't go within about 5 minutes, bring them back and put them back in the crate. That goes all along with all that potty training. If you put the puppy in and within a couple minutes your puppy starts crying, you just pottied them. You should be pottying them right before you put them in the crate, especially if it's going to be for an extended period of time. But if they cry within a few moments of you putting them in the crate, they're just crying because they want to be with you. Maybe they want their toy, maybe they're hungry, whatever it is. But anything that they need, any bare necessities or any of that kind of stuff, that's going to be already be taken care of. You put them in the crate, they just want your attention. The best thing you can do is completely ignore them. Don't look at them, don't make eye contact with them, don't even turn in the direction if you can help it. And if they keep going, leave their eyesight. Let them know that just by your body language, that if they start misbehaving in the crate, they're barking, they're pawing at it, they're getting anxious and they won't settle down. If you walk away, give them about 2 minutes of being quiet. They have to be calm and quiet like he's doing right now. He's listening to what's going on in the other room. This is calm, this is quiet, this is acceptable behavior in the kennel. Give him about 2 minutes of that and then return to his presence. If they start getting all excited, don't immediately look at them, don't immediately acknowledge them, just be in the room. Wait again for 2 more minutes of this calm, good, appropriate behavior. And then you can go ahead and approach them. As long as they stay at least fairly level, sometimes you have to take it down a notch every time. If they're level 5 excitement, work on getting to level 4 before they get out of the kennel. When they're capable of only being at level 4, then you go down to a level 3 of excitement and you slowly work on it, because sometimes they can't be perfect, but you can take a step towards that perfection. Now, when you do open that door, when they're behaving, they're not supposed to step out. He's pushing the line a little bit right now because his head did stick out, but he didn't make a move otherwise to come out of the kennel. I have not given him permission to step out. So even if I walk away, he's supposed to stay. Now, you're not going to practice off leash like this until you've practiced and practiced and you know, not you think, but when you know you can trust them, then you can practice off leash. But you can practice on a short leash, and then you can move to a long leash, that's fine. But the idea is if he starts to move, if he starts to step out before he's allowed, it's I can give a little pop on that leash. I can use my body to block him, or the third option is simply close this door in his face. So if I go to open this door and he starts getting super excited and super pushy about coming out on his own time, I'm gonna open the door and I'm gonna close it right away. I'm not gonna open it all the way. I'm gonna open just enough that he thinks that door's opening, and then I'm gonna close it again. He's going to understand, oh, I made a mistake. I got a little pushy, I got a little excited. It's simply to remind them. You don't need to be slamming their face, and of course we're not hurting them, but you need to let him know. So you need to close that door. If you have to bounce it, the noise will get them to back away from the door a little bit. That's just typical what these guys do. And again, you can use your body instead, but this doorway is kind of big, and if I'm standing sideways to him, he could easily push his way out. So you've got to make sure that either you only open the door just far enough that you can block him, make sure he's calm, and he's got to be calm in order for him to come out. Now again, if the leash is on him, you can tell him let's go, which is that walking command. You can say let's go and they'll be able to step out. They're allowed to step out, but they have to be walking with you at that point. If you say let's go, you are now telling them to heel if you've continued with our training. That means he needs to stay on my left side. If I'm not walking, he's sitting next to me. If I'm walking, he is walking next to me and I'm in charge of that walk. If I tell him okay in that high, fun-pitched voice, that's telling him he's free from this command. It doesn't mean that he can immediately pull on the leash, but he's free. He doesn't have to walk. He doesn't have to sit or lie down right away, but he's free from this command. Okay, good boy. And this is something to practice. Have him go in the kennel, make him be patient. Oh, good boy. Have him be patient, and then, okay, very good. And make sure you give them lots of praise. Don't just give them a treat and be done. Give them lots of loves, because that's what they love. Yes, they do. They're so happy. And when they're happier, they're more likely just gonna offer this behavior. All I did is gesture towards the kennel, and he's so happy. He's so happy. Okay, Yes, that's a good boy, that's a good boy. So make sure you practice it to keep them happy. Now going in, let's say that, I know you're super excited to go in. Let's say he's stopping, he doesn't want to go in the kennel. He says, you know what? The last 3 times that you put me in there, you put me in, you locked the door, you walked away, and you were gone forever. Because even 5 minutes for these guys, that's forever, huh? And so you want to make sure that you practice this. So going in, let's say he says, I don't want to go in. It might be hard to show because he's excited about going in. He's a good boy. If he's hesitating, you walk up to the kennel and he immediately puts on the brakes. Maybe he sits, maybe he lies down, maybe he starts pulling backwards. Make sure you keep the leash tight enough that the only progress he can make with a loose leash is forward into the kennel. If he starts to back up, don't let him pull away. Make sure you hold that leash tight. He can only go as far as you're allowing him physically with that leash. Hold it tight, and if he moves forward, that leash goes slack. If he stops and hesitates, that leash is going to be tight and it's uncomfortable. You're not dragging him in. One thing is, most of our corrections are a pop on the leash. If you pop towards the kennel, a little pop like I just did there, and he's so excited about going in anyway, but a little pop might help them out. But if you go pop, 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 and you're constantly popping that leash and correcting him to go to the kennel, any moment he has of wanting to go in and saying, you know what, I guess I'll do it, and then you pop again because you're going quick, you're actually correcting him for going to the kennel, and so he's going to stop even more. So just a constant tension. Notice anytime I put a little bit of tension on this leash, he's responding to it, and that's one thing that these guys understand, especially the longer that they're here. So if you get one of our older puppies, or you've continued with our training, when they feel that tension, they typically move with that tension. So just a little bit of tension to help pull him in, and then keep that tension constant until they decide to move forward. You can always bribe him. You can take treats, show him you have treats, put them in front of his face, and then drop them in the back of the kennel. You can take their favorite toy and put it in the back of the kennel. So he's got to go as far as possible into the kennel in order to get those treats or that toy. Make it fun for them. Make it a game even. This could be part of the practicing part of it. Take a toy, you're at the other side of the room, maybe you're halfway across the room from the kennel, you take a toy and you throw it in the kennel. He goes, he gets it, he gets to play with it. Whether he brings it back to you or not, it doesn't matter. It's making the kennel something fun. Going into the kennel is fun for him. Now the last part of training is going to be when they're in here. When he's in here and he's making a lot of noise. The younger they are, the best thing you can do is completely ignore it, like I said earlier. But let's say you don't have the patience for that. A lot of us struggle with that. You can give him corrections. There's a few different things you can do. You can hit the top of the kennel. It makes a nice, big, loud noise. I'm barely tapping it. It gets his attention. But if he was misbehaving, I can make it louder. I can hit it stronger. It's going to make a louder noise. You can hit the side if you need to. It just makes a big, loud noise. It helps startle them, and they stop thinking about the barking thing. They think about what just happened, and if you can time it right, that's going to be a really good thing for you. You can also shake it. Right now, this is just enough to say, hey, what's going on? But if I was to shake it enough to kind of unstabilize and be like, oh, what's going on? You got to startle him. That's the idea of the correction when they're crying in the crate. And then, of course, you can try the or a shush, but those typically do not work. You're just kind of yelling back at them. Now you're both just yelling, hey, back and forth. So the best types of corrections are going to be hitting the crate or shaking the crate. If you're at a distance, going to the crate to give one of those negative corrections, even though it's negative, you're still giving him your attention. You're giving a little bit more attention than you were when you're sitting across the room. So if you're at a distance and he's barking, or your puppy, she, he, whatever, they're barking and they're misbehaving, you couldn't get like a water bottle and squirt them with water. Sometimes that works as well. It's just another tool to use, and that way you don't have to approach the cage, because again, just simply approaching it even for a negative correction, it's still positive in their mind, or it can be positive, because you're approaching them, you're giving them attention, and that, in the end, that is the bottom line of what they want when they're crying in the crate, minus potty breaks, of course. I hope these tips regarding crate training will help alleviate any issues or concerns you may have. Please, if there's anything else we can do for you, don't hesitate to reach out.